for that, and will for the next several years as they bring that new facility out of the ground in Holly Springs.
Fantastic. Well, we now are going to bring in our guest. We have about 10 more minutes left. We're going to bring in Mark Lee, who's one of my co-hosts, and Nick Paladiva, who is the founder and CEO of IBM TV. So because of him, he lives in Raleigh, and we've never met, but we are running global television, world-class programming, and so we want to thank you for being with us. So I'm going to open it up to my distinguished panelists to ask and also take any questions from our international viewers about Wake Tech and the community college system in North Carolina and the United States. So, Mark, we'll start with you.
Yes, Scott, pleasure to meet you and everything. You may know my mother. My mother is Valeria Lee, who is actually with public education in a lot of different ways and everything of that nature. Absolutely. I know that she's a big supporter of definitely the education system, having been a guidance counselor when she was much younger and everything, and I was a child and all of that, but definitely haven't been involved in education at both Golden Leaf and Z. Smith Reynolds, and we actually have relatives that are involved in a lot of the community colleges. One of the things that I know folks oftentimes talk about isn't just the high end of the community college and the importance of that, but also the importance with the GED programs and vocational education. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, and also how we're doing in that regard, because I know that that's an important part.
Really glad you mentioned that. And that's also a unique part of North Carolina community colleges. North Carolina community colleges are the most comprehensive form of community colleges in the country. And part of that is the programs that you just mentioned, those non-degree programs. So our work in terms of adult high school, what's called adult basic education, literacy and numeracy programs. In fact, we operate the high school equivalency program for seasonal farm workers all across North Carolina through Wake Tech. And so it is a front door. It's a vital part of what we do. It's a unique part of what we do. It is an area right now, to be honest with you, Mark, that we're a little worried about right now, because what we've seen in our last year is that while our numbers have stayed fairly constant in terms of overall enrollment, it's been different program areas, and our most vulnerable students, and particularly those in those programs, what we call career and college readiness programs, have suffered the most. So we're attuned to that because we're concerned about those students. We try to reach out to them, bring them back. Our most vulnerable economic students are the ones that we've lost over the past year, have stopped out, and so we're really engaged in working with them to try to get them back involved. And that's a program area where, we lost several students during the pandemic.
Nick, Nick, do you have any questions, Nick?
Yeah, I'm just curious because the thing is, I moved in from Seattle about 6 years ago, and then actually was south of here. I was in a country club near Pinehurst. Now I moved up to Raleigh because my grandkids are here, which is the whole reason. But here's the question that I have, because we form the IBM TV network, we distribute our content to 122 countries, and people all over the world want to come to the United States for education. But they are not sure about the doors that are open or the doors that are closed to them. What the Wake Tech Community College is a huge system. But my question is real simple. Do you allow foreign students to attend the classes, Scott? In other words, people from overseas.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. We have, special counseling to work with international students. We're working actually with my old college right now to perhaps bring a group of foreign students as part of the State Department efforts. So, most of our students, and this is the case with community colleges, are people who have lived in Wake County or around Wake County, but not all. We have students that come from all over the country, and also internationally. And so that's not an uncommon thing. And we certainly welcome that. And our student body is so diverse, in whether it's age or whether it's by race, but also internationally. And so that's something we embrace, and it makes us who we are. And we look towards that and look forward to that.
Yeah. Scott, go ahead, Nick.
Well, the thing is, I read that you have like 70,000 students. Mm-hmm. Is that true, or some number in that amount? That's huge.
It is, and we count everybody. So that includes our small business center students, the students that Mark was talking about that are in like our adult high school programs or high school equivalency. We have about 31,000 degree students. About half of those students are students who come here to go through us to the universities. And we have great articulation arrangements with our public and private universities in North Carolina. And then the other half are going through our very skill-based programs when we talk about IT and biotech and the trades areas and baking and pastry. Those are those programs.
Fantastic. I just had one question come in on the Facebook, and it's the question is on my Facebook is, how could, if somebody's interested in partnering with you, we had Suavesh Chatterjee, who on the show a few months ago. He took us to India, to Bengal and Kolkata for a business summit with the Secretary of Marshall, and what came up during those conversations was collaboration with our community colleges. So since we're already accepting international students, it sounds to me like there's an opportunity, and that was the question, to collaborate with Indian or universities around the world.
Yeah, and we've had community colleges in North Carolina have been involved in helping other countries who weren't as far along. Actually, community colleges are uniquely American. There's not anything exactly like us in any other part of the country, although you do have polytechnics in Asia. You have the further education colleges in the UK. So there's similarities. We've worked with different we helped Thailand, we helped Northern Ireland start their programs that are similar. Years ago, I worked with England. They already had colleges that they called further education colleges, but they were really focused on workforce development. So I worked with England years ago on workforce development. And so we've had international engagements, particularly those three, in the recent years, and we welcome those opportunities. Again, we're community colleges, so unlike say an international university, we're focused on our community, specifically Wake County as our community.
Yeah, you're creating the jobs. Yeah. Right, creating the jobs.
Hey, Scott, for decades, definitely the community colleges have had a very good reputation here in not just North Carolina, but throughout the country. I'm thinking about the way that not just Wake Tech, but Durham Tech and Vance Granville and a number of other ones, even ones like Cape Fear that are down there toward the ocean and everything, have always had strong support, both in the state as well as having a national and a global reputation. In your mind, what is it about our community colleges that make them so popular?
I think it's our comprehensive nature. I think it's that there's so many doors to opportunity. I will say this about Wake Tech is that I think we are the most comprehensive opportunity college in the country. And I say that because North Carolina community colleges do more things, have more, again, doors of opportunity than any other place. The programs that you mentioned, you can just see it in the program areas around here. I mean, think of another place where, I am right now on the southern campus. I can walk down to what is the best ag tech program on the East Coast, which is, to repair John Deere tractors, or I can walk over there and see our photogrammetry lab for one of probably the best game development community college program in the country. So, it's this notion that there's such a breadth of programs, but also that you can start so many different places. So if you don't have a high school degree, you can start there. Many of our students already have 4-year college degrees, and they're coming back to get certificates, like our unique data analytics certificate. 2/3 of the students in that program already have a bachelor's or a master's degree when they begin that program. So, we're kind of a skills focused, jobs focused, opportunity focused college. And there's more doors of opportunity at North Carolina community colleges than any other form of colleges in the country.
We had around two more. Go ahead. Sorry, Mark.
No, so I would definitely agree with you on that and everything, that there seem to be more doors and everything. I know that one of the things that we've talked about here, and Steve actually alluded to it earlier, was the things that are going on in innovations. And a lot of that has to do with climate and energy. So I was just wondering if you could talk about some of the programs that y'all are doing in that regard, because I know that there's some things that community colleges are tied to with wind development, solar development, and a lot of other things.
Yeah, I'll tell you our approach to it. And this actually was back in 2010, I believe. I was the system president back then. We kind of revamped all of our technical programs. And back then we called Code Green. That terminology came from Tom Friedman, who said back in the day that the U.S. was going to have to go Code Green like we went Code Red after Sputnik went up. And so the idea was, for us, it wasn't so much in terms of starting, say, windmill programs, because like a windmill is really a turbine in the sky, but to incorporate sustainability, energy efficiency into all our technical programs. So you can see that right now at Wake Tech, our new Center for Building Technologies, where we're training, the electricians of tomorrow. Well, a big part of what they learn is solar energy. They have that opportunity to learn that in our automotive programs. We have a unique niche and are developing a really strong niche in EV, electric vehicles. So that's sort of our approach, is not to create new slivers of programs, but to build that in a very fundamental and meaningful way into these advanced technician programs.
That's a great question. Two more questions. I know we've got a stop in a few minutes, but one question that came in is about entrepreneurship programs. So you do have programs within Wake Tech. I know you have Katie Gales and the team that are focusing on startup formation.
We do.
Is that, okay. And
yeah,
go ahead.
We're going to have a nice announcement soon. We do all the launch programs in Wake County, our small business center programs with Sheriff Robertson, the launch programs that Katie sponsors. And we're proud of the role we play. Last year, we raised $196,000 in emergency grant funds for our 86 recent small businesses that started through the launch programs to help them through the pandemic. We're going to have a nice new donation announcement soon. I'll tease it now. Won't tell you what it is. That's going to open up doors of opportunity for entrepreneurship and business startup for our students at Wake Tech. So we're excited about that, and stay tuned.
And the final question is, you had the National Association of, it's called NACI, right?
National Association of Community College Entrepreneurship.
So that's Wake Tech RTP. So could you talk a little bit about this idea that you all have down the road of an early STEM career high school? That seems to be very interesting. And what are the exciting things going on at RTP?
Yeah, so we have a 92-acre campus right outside the gates there, right outside the park in RTP in Morrisville.
In the metropolis of Morrisville.
That's right. It's in Morrisville. Our first building was our general education building, but also is the hub for all our IT programs like cybersecurity, networking, cloud infrastructure. The new building will be we call it RTP2. It's a 66,000 square foot facility that will have our biotech center, our clean room, our microbiology labs. But the second floor is dedicated to what we are working with the Wake County Public Schools, which will be a fourth early college high school within the Wake Tech network and focused on IT degrees and biotech degrees. We've been working very diligently the last couple of years in the transfer opportunities for students in those degrees. So, in many cases, those students will come out with a 2-year Wake Tech degree in the time frame that they finish their high school degree, which oftentimes gives them the opportunity to both work and complete even a master's degree at the same time everybody else is completing a bachelor's degree.
Fantastic. The final thing, I wanted to thank you all for doing stuff for veterans too. We just had the announcement of President Biden pulling out all of our troops from Afghanistan by September 11th of this year. But there are a lot of veteran resource center programs too. So I wanted to thank Wake Tech and Marilyn Terrell for doing those programs. And are there any other questions that we have for President Rawls? And
just one real quick question. This is a Mark here again and everything. One of the questions, Scott, that I was curious about was, I know that education is definitely at the forefront of a lot of people's minds, even during this pandemic and everything. But as a leader in the education field, what are some of the things that you are concerned about? And what are some of the proposals and things that you would like to see implemented both by our state government and our federal government? So if you had like a dream list, what are some of the things that you are concerned about?
Yeah. Well, actually, I'm going on Tuesday to speak to the U.S. Senate Committee on Health, Education, and Labor about workforce emerging out of the COVID. So I was working on some of those suggestions this morning. For us, I'll tell you where we are at Wake Tech and what we're paying attention to. Our region is remarkable. If you look at all the economic statistics, we're in the top 5 of anything you want to be that's positive, except for one challenge we have in our region is that if you look at some economic analysis, it's still a tough place to grow up poor and not stay poor. In other words, we don't do as well as other metropolitan regions for children who grow up poor here who then want to emerge and not be poor as adults. We've been a huge magnet. We're not still the ladder we need to be into some of these opportunities. Wake Tech is taking that on personally. We think we are the largest ladder college in this region. And so our goal, we call it reach and rally, and we have a variety of strategies to make sure we're reaching into the communities who need us the most, rallying around our students so they feel our support, but then creating, sometimes we'll refer to it as ladder economics, ladders to the great opportunities that exist in this region. So we're trying to be very deliberate about that. And there's policies that can help support those efforts because it's about, widely shared prosperity. We have great prosperity in this region, and we want to open up the doors through Wake Tech to everybody who lives here to share in that prosperity.
Well, this has been a wonderful time with Dr. Rawls, and as I close out this wonderful program, if you have any information, if you want information, you can go to the Wake Tech website, visit the Morrisville campus or any of the campuses he mentioned. They're beautiful. And as we emerge from the pandemic, Dr. Rawls, I have a couple of thoughts. One, I hope that we can have a Diwali festival at Wake Tech, either RTP next year, post-COVID, together, maybe even without masks, which would be so fun. And I wish we had a football team or a tennis team. I have one more of eligibility as a college tennis player, so I might start the Wake Tech tennis team. Hey,
Yeah.
50 years old, and I'm still beating some of the high school kids. So,
yeah, well, our new esports team is in our national championships this week, so we do have that.
Yes, but we want to thank you for being with us, and it's been an amazing program. We're going to have next week the Dean and Provost Keith Babachak come on the radio, but we're going to try to bring them on IBM TV, but we wanted to kick the series off on community colleges, and so having you with us is great. Are there any parting words you have before you leave us today? Are you busy?
No, I will just say we are proud to be our community's college. It's a wonderful community, and it's a great privilege to be able to work at a place like Wake Tech in a community like Wake County. So thank you for this opportunity.
Fantastic. Well, folks, we've had with us Scott Rawls. We'll be bringing him back. And thank you for all the great leadership you're doing for North Carolina. And we're honored that you're in our state, and look forward to continued dialogue on training our citizens for jobs of the future.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.
Grazie.
Thank you, gentlemen. That was a wonderful program. I thank you for, very impressive work that they're doing. Very, very impressive. It's one of those, you talk about underreported stories. I think I've heard Nick Paladavis say this. We hear a lot about NC State and Duke and Carolina and Wake Forest, but I tell you right here.
Yeah, you have Wake Tech and 70,000 students. Wake Tech doesn't get enough love. And see, and the thing is, if you think about it, the industries of the future are built around community colleges, not the four-year traditional slugfest that exist with huge student debt, which is the thing that I'm so totally pro community college, because they actually teach you something that you can use. Okay, that's actually a useful skill, which to me is much, and without a high price tag on it. When you add all that, the value proposition is unbelievable, and we should push more of our students into the community college sector because they actually learn something that's useful. I spent a lot of time learning. I got a 4-year degree in political science. I hate to say it. It's frankly not useful.
It can sometimes not be useful, but I do have to teach you about something and everything, which is that some of the fields are very narrow trained and all of that. Definitely community college is great for some of the medical fields that aren't necessarily our doctors and lawyers, but I'm wondering if community college can ever take over some of our law schools and our medical schools as well. So as a lawyer, what do you think about the possibility of community colleges actually running those? Because right now they're run by our universities.
Well, that's a good question. That might be a long time from now, Mark. But the thing is, in reality, we don't need more lawyers. We need more engineers than we do lawyers in the United States. So we need people that do things. Okay. And unfortunately, we graduate a lot of people that don't do things, and lawyers and financial advisors who I work with, they don't produce anything. They just move around things that are already produced. Think about that one. Okay.
Well,
and they get paid well for doing it. But,
I'm going to have to give my closing monologue, my last look before I leave early today. But
you're leaving, we'll take over.
Well, and I'll be back tomorrow for the Build Back Better playbook. And tomorrow, I think what we're going to talk about is education and the concern that our country is falling behind with many countries not having summer breaks as long as we do. So we're going to talk a little bit about that because I think it's very important. Some other things that we want to talk about maybe today on the show, but something that we continue to talk about: the Derek Chauvin trial, the death of Dante right in Minneapolis, the protests going on, using the taser or using the gun instead of a taser, but the pulling out of troops from Afghanistan. And what to me was, and I guess I'm not surprised because of the progressives, but the call to increase the Supreme Court size by the Democrats in the House and the Senate, which to me is not really, it's going to be a real political battle. But I think we might want to talk about, is that good for our Supreme Court to increase one way or the other? And so that maybe you guys, but I know Lawyers Den may be talking about that, Nick. So
it's on the deck for Lawyers Den to discuss the Supreme Court. We have a whole series that's on the deck for next week, from transgender to a big one that's coming up, Steve, which we believe is not getting a lot of press. The NCAA may get slapped with a antitrust violation, and this is going to be big in college sports. In other words, all the kids that are playing college sports will now be able to get paid finally, and this is we believe, after listening to the oral arguments from the NCAA, listening to how the judges respond, the decision will take place probably in June. But this is going to turn college sports upside down, because now for the first time, let's say I'm a professional tennis player, or I'm a college tennis player. If you're at Nike, you want to give me an endorsement for $1 million, I can now accept it. I don't have to. I don't have to grovel for pennies why the universities take all my money. And this is going to turn the whole world of sports upside down.
Wow,
that actually raises
and it's going to happen this year.
Well, guys, thank you so much.
We'll talk about with Mark.
I got someone texted me. Somebody texted me about wanting to get they couldn't get the Facebook stream. So where do they go to get that to see our interview with Dr. Ross? Because it wasn't on our Facebook page apparently.
Let's see. I think this is distributed. It should be on YouTube.
Yeah, it should be on YouTube and Facebook.
But I'm not sure. And the thing is, what will happen?
Well, send that to me so I can post it on my site, because a bunch of people.
Yeah, it'll also be recorded and distributed out. So the thing is, it gets recorded and distributed out. So it'll be on Facebook later on today.
Folks all over the state are pinging me, and
I know welcome to Media Land. Okay.
All right. Well, you end the broadcast. I'm just going to get out.
I'll take care of it. Ankit's going to be here. Brandon's going to be here. Yeah. Don't end broadcast. Just end leave. Just do leave studio at the bottom. Don't end the broadcast, please.
Can I just let's see, leave studio? I'll just
click
at the
bottom. It's at the bottom, or you can click out, either one.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir.
If we all disappear, we'll blame it on Steve.
We'll blame it on Steve. Totally. Okay, we're in good shape.
But now that gives us the floor, so we can talk about what we're talking about. Let me
that actually raises an interesting question, Nick. Which actually, as you were saying that, I was curious because in the past the colleges were getting that money if Nike came and everything. So do you think that there will be some sort of percentage where the say some player at UNC or Duke decides that they want a Nike endorsement, that the college will still get some sort of, for lack of a better term, kickback in terms of?
Right. Well, the thing is, see, here's that's a good question. The answer is maybe and maybe not. And I'm going to tell you just what my story is on this, because I didn't play through the NCAA. I played on chess teams. Okay. And in chess teams, they already had a rule that you could be a professional chess player and go play college chess at the same time. So when I was playing for the University of South Florida's chess team, because we were not under the NCAA guidance, we had a couple scholarship students. Okay. And that's how we did really well. That worked. But if they wanted to go play in a tournament to make money, and I used to do that, play tournaments for money, you'd collect the money. There was nothing wrong with it. Okay. I mean, the thing is, it's almost like, so what? No one cares. And then I can go play for the University of South Florida's chess team. This even exists today. So they've had like a 30, 40-year history where the chess players get chess scholarships at a lot of universities. University of Texas at Dallas, Webster, St. Louis University, University of Texas, Rio Grande, Maryland, actually the University of Maryland, Baltimore College has one. There's tons of them that actually have chess scholarships. But if these players want to go out and play tournaments and make money at the same time, it's okay. No one turns an eye. And the model actually works. Okay, now they could have that same model, and I didn't file an amicus brief because I didn't follow this. They could actually use the same model in college sports. but they don't do that. And the reason they do that is the universities want to suck all the money from the poor college students. I am so totally against that.
But you know, they've been doing that forever, because actually, you know, I always do the mystery guest, and that's somebody historical and everything. On the online dinner party, had two writers on yesterday. One that has written a book about his life growing up as a Latino American and everything, and the other person that has written some poetry and done the theater and things along those lines. And they read some of their works. But then I had the mystery guest, and one of the mystery guests was Robert Frost, and the other mystery guest was Jim Thorpe. And we do remember that Jim Thorpe also got kicked off because of the fact that when he was living and everything, he went to the Olympics, and apparently he'd been paid for professional sports. I think it might have been in baseball. I don't think it was in football till later. But that's why he was had his medal stripped. They were later reinstated to him and everything. But definitely, you know, that's a classic story of somebody that was robbed because of being a quote unquote professional athlete. But I'm of the opinion that most Olympian athletes are getting paid something. So that's a whole misnomer in my mind, from everything from the bicyclists to the track runners to the swimmers to a lot of the other Olympic sports. And by the way, Nick, did you know, I just found that out recently, that we're going to have a new Olympic sport that will fascinate people. But apparently in the Olympics this year, there will be breakdancing as an Olympic sport.
Right. And by the way, between me and you, chess has been trying to become an Olympic sport for years. But here's the problem. You wouldn't believe what the problem is, okay? Actually in chess, they actually have a thing called the Olympiad. It's been going on for years, where all the countries compete, all the chess players know about, but it has nothing to do with the Olympics. Okay, when the chess players were talking about FIDE, which is the international group, is taking the Olympiads to the Olympics, they had drug requirements. I'm not kidding. The chess players didn't want to take the drug test. I am not kidding. And that stopped the deal even today, that the chess players are not part of the Olympics because the requirement's Olympics. But in the meantime, they did change the professionalism rule so that you can have professionals play on your Olympic team. So this whole idea, you know, and let me tell you why the Democrats and Republican bench were in favor of slapping the NCAA. First of all, it's a monopoly. And as they said in their oral arguments, it's not like Major League Baseball and the NFL, which actually have a monopoly exemption. The NCAA doesn't have that exemption, so they're free game. The Republican bench didn't like it because the monopoly was stifling competition. In other words, stifling freedom. So let's say, you know, you're a baseball player, Mark, and the thing is, the way they look at it, this monopoly is stopping you from getting paid on the outside while you're trying to go through college. So the Republican side didn't like it. The Democrat side didn't like it because they're going, oh, you don't have any money and you're busted, and all the money is going to Nick Saban and all these rich college coaches and the university. They didn't like the fact that these poor athletes weren't getting paid. So you have both sides of the bench that were against the NCAA. They hammered the NCAA about their crazy anti-professionalism rule. So if you looked at the oral arguments and you went through the briefs, you're going to assume that by June, and this is going to flip college sports. I believe they're talking about it right now in all the college, not so much Wake Tech because they don't have professional sports, college sports. Okay, same thing, really. Okay, except only one guy gets paid, the coaches in the university. Okay, they're not talking about that. But we'll see, here's what may happen if you're a betting man. In June, the ruling will come out by the Supreme Court. The NCAA is going to get slapped, and now all the students can get paid finally. You know, in other words, like if you're a good baseball player, Mark, you can go pro, but if you go to college, you get a scholarship, and you get an endorsement, you can take that money. If somebody wants you to go speak to their organization, you can take that money too. They're not going, in other words, the NCAA is going to lose total control over their craziness that has been going on for decades, which frankly I can't stand. But anyway, that's
I've got two questions for you, that I've got a statement for you that you'll be glad to know about our lovely network here and everything that involves a past show. But my question for you really quickly is, are you going to Budapest in next year? Because apparently that's where the chess Olympics is going to be held at. So if
Really?
they can hold it and not do it virtually, it looks like it's going to be there in Budapest. And that should be one of your trips that you'll be taking, because I know you're trying to plan trips for the rest of this year and next year as we're coming out of the pandemic. And speaking of coming out of the pandemic, and this is where the statement comes in play, I was in touch with, or he got in touch with me, our speaker that you brought onto the show last couple of days ago, Mr. Aiden, and everything. We had him. We had the filmmaker, and apparently Aiden is trying to talk to me and maybe you and maybe Bill and others about trying to get us on the speaking circuit. So he wants us to get on some podcasts to talk about IBM TV, as well as maybe some newspaper articles and everything else. So it looks like we have somewhat hired a unofficial PR person, because he called me and he talked to me and said that he might have some opportunities for me to go and spread the news about IBM TV in the very near future.
Yeah. He also has some people that could be on your show. So, as a matter of fact, I talked to him. I said he should talk to you about some of these people, because they have a fit on your show, and sometimes they don't fit on. I said they don't fit on my show. Okay, so I was going, well, you got to talk to Mark, because he's got quite a few places that he could fit these people in on. So no, I think that would be pretty good in terms of what we're doing, which is obviously growing the network and expanding internationally. Speaking of international, Ankit has just joined us from New Delhi, India. Namaste, which I have learned over there. We're talking about the World Edition, which I'm not sure if this is big in the world, Ankit, but it is big in the United States. Is that I think the NCAA, they are not talking about too much on the news, that they're going to destroy the NCAA's. For years, what they do is they force students not to get paid. In other words, students had to live in poverty while coaches live in luxury, which is totally wrong. You know,
it is totally wrong. But like that actually raises the question to Ankit. What is the deal with cricket players? Do they have these same kind of issues? I know they get paid tons of money and all that. Sometimes they get paid more than our NFL, NBA, and others combined, depending on who the star is. But do they have that same issue of like if they're playing in college, that they're not able to be paid because of being considered amateur versus professional? Do they have that same issue?
Yeah, good question. If you're a student in India and you're playing cricket for a college, are you able to get money by playing professionally, or get money by endorsements?
Yeah. So basically, I mean, 10 years back, there was no money for college students who are playing cricket, until if you're a part of a club and you will get something as a prize money, maybe, which is not that good, but that just for your pocket money. But what happened because of like privatization, because of the smallest league, and I told you about the small cricket or a short cricket format, there are a lot of leagues going around the world and in India multiple times throughout the year. And that creates a lot of buzz in terms of corporate and stuff like that. So if you talk about domestic players, they are getting more than money. I mean, if you compare it with a white collar job, basically, because whenever they play, they get money and they have a contract for a monthly or an annually and stuff like that. And they got sponsorship as a separate revenue model. If you're an international player, I will not compare it with NFL, NBA, but you will be far on the same lines, and then you might be getting more money from those players as well. In fact, a couple of cricketers are the top paid sports person as well. I mean, there are a lot of cricketers who are in top 100 sports person throughout whatever the database is. So cricket is generating a lot of money. In fact, the tournaments, which I'm talking about, the small tournaments, what happens is that usually cricket is an 8-hour game, but now we have completed and compromised and then make it a 3 to 4 hour game. And that creates a lot of interesting formats. You can play at night and day and whatever it is. And then a lot of corporates have accepted it. And because people want to watch it, so it becomes a money generation business for everyone. And everyone would like to set up their own thing. But cricket is certainly generating a lot of money and also helping other sports people as well to get something out of that as well. Because in India, the debate is that why people are watching cricket or why everyone's talking about cricket. There are a lot of other sports as well. Because other sports people, no one knows about the captain of football or hockey or stuff like that. But everyone knows about cricket. So cricketers are coming out and they are helping those sports people as well to make sure that they try to create a balance. and keep running the show basically.
So a person that plays in sports in India, and let's say I go to college full time, but then I also play for a team and I get paid professionally. Am I able to do that, or are you forbidden?
Yeah,
You're able to do that. Okay.
Yeah,
See, to me, Mark, this is important, and we didn't really check around the world. I guess I should have. That model of, and I'll tell you how they did it in the chess world. Okay, to play on the chess team as a scholarship player, you have to take X amount of classes. You got to demonstrate you went to classes and you took these amount of classes. But then you can play professionally too at the same time. They don't care, and they've used that model for 30 or 40 years. So I could actually go play tournaments, and I did, to make money. And then I could go to school and play on my chess team because I was going to school full time. That model worked for 40 years in the chess world. It seems to me it works internationally in India. But here's the US model. This goes back to my objection. Everything for the 1% and pennies for everybody else. Nick Saban makes $4 million a year as a chess coach for Alabama. His little kids can't get, $400 to take a round trip ticket back to see their family. In other words, they're living in forced poverty and squalor. And so, and who pushes this down on everybody? It's an organization called the NCAA.
Well, it's the NCAA, but it's also the universities, because I know that for a long time, the universities would sometimes push even some of the basketball players and others into what we used to call cupcake courses and all of that. So they were like very easy courses for folks to have. And that was what folks were thinking they were getting. I know that when my dad was teaching at UNC, there were folks that thought that they were getting those kind of courses from his course. They were in for a rude surprise because, I said, I know he had some folks like Warren Martin and others that were there that were his students. And I think that they thought it was going to be an easy course. They didn't know my dad, so it wasn't an easy course.
Yeah, and but you're right. The universities are on the take. Okay, in other words, the universities are getting paid off, so they go by what the NCAA says because they're getting all the revenue that they're not paying their coaches. So the coaches then the universities are cleaning up, and the students are going into poverty or staying into poverty because of this system. Okay, and this is what's really going on. The media will not report it because guess who has contracts to run college sports? ABC, NBC, all the other parts of the media. So this whole thing that's going on in front of the Supreme Court is not being shown in the media because it's bad. However, here's the real problem that they're facing. By June, reality can hit them like a big wave. In other words, they can't ignore the 800-pound gorilla in the room anymore. Because if the Supreme Court comes down and says, NCAA, you're an illegal monopoly, boom, watch. College sports here will be turned upside down because all this, I'm going to keep the students in poverty and squalor, which is what they do.
There's so many monopolies they haven't tackled yet. I'm of the opinion that a lot of our radio media, as well as a lot of our other media, have been very much in that monopoly pocket as well. I actually think that COVID has broken up the monopoly to some degree because it's given more people access to things like YouTube. And of course, more people are sitting at home. So they've got access to things like YouTube, StreamYard, Reverb Nation, a number of other things that are able to, they can put their product out without having to go to a Radio One or a Clear Channel in radio or a Warner Brothers in film or a number of other things within TV. So I think that it's definitely opening up things of what this whole tragedy has been. Nick, you'll be glad to know that I actually had another one of our lovely folks that some folks may consider a conspiracy theorist, not quite as bad as Oli Damagard, but a gentleman by the name who decided to just put his audio and not his face out there, by the name of The Crow. And The Crow was on, and he actually came back to one of your issues, and he agrees with you. He actually thinks that the media is fanning the flame of a lot of things that are going on, or a number of other things. Because as he was talking and as he was getting his quote, I was like thinking to myself, wow, is Nick playing the role of The Crow? Because like I said, he was definitely saying some of the same things that you have said as well. So one of the things that I'm learning how to do is there are a couple of programs that you can pull from our video certain kind of clips and audio. So I'm going to try to find that audio at some point and maybe put it up on Twitter or Instagram or some of the other quicker sources, but also have it available so that we can play it here. Because as he was talking, and this was on Monday's show, on the radio show with Mark Lee, I was saying, wow, this sounds just like Nick, because he sounded just like you in talking about the way of media and media's impact on society and the way that they're fanning a lot of flames of issues.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it looks like Ankit is showing me some of the cricket players. The net worth has grown to 125 million playing cricket. So
that's only 1 year. That's only 1 year.
Only 1 year, right? Yeah, I mean, it's a very well-known, popular sport, except in the United States. I mean, it's like in the U.S., it's like, what's cricket?
But let me tell you an interesting part that cricket is. I mean, there's a league starting in U.S. because of COVID. It might got postponed, and that is the cricket league. And the rights for the league, the media rights sold for over $1 billion.
Really?
Media
Wow.
rights.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
So I just got one question. And that's the same question that people ask me about track, which I was very bad at and everything. And I'm sure people have asked Nick about chess. And I've got friends that play football and basketball, which is, with all of that money being in the field, why isn't Ankit a cricket star? We need Ankit to be a cricket star.
Because we have 1.4 billion people, and then it's difficult to be a part of that 11. And I used to play cricket, but then you have to do a lot of other work as well, basically, because cricket is not everything, but it's something for a lot of people.
It's like the NCAA, Mark. See, the thing is, they did a study on the college students, how many actually make it in the pros. It's like
exactly
2%, 2 out of 100 or 2 out of 1,000. It's a really small percentage. And see,
it sounds like an even smaller percentage in cricket because there's billions of people.
But I'll tell you one
and
interesting fact you might not be aware about. The fact is that I mean, a lot of sports, if you talk about Formula One, basically what they do is they scout the people or the students or the kids at a young age, at around 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 maximum, and then they train them for the next 5-7 years, and they get them ready to drive them on Formula One. But now what happened is that after spending like 10 years on a person, and then we sign a contract, and after 5 years of contract, that person say, "Now I'm ready. I'm moving to some other company or some other team," and that's the biggest thing, because you have spent a person, you have created a star out of it. You have spent like 15 years on that, and then that person says, "I want to get out of the contract," and that happens regularly on football, on Formula One, and all those professional, leagues basically. And that is the sad part, but I mean, it happens.
We have so much in common, Ankit. That happens in the U.S. all the time too. Yeah. All this training time, and all of a sudden, goodbye. I'm leaving. I have better grounds elsewhere. After a while, you just go, okay, it is what it is over there. But the thing is, when you talk about conspiracies, the biggest conspiracy out there, Mark, is the conspiracy of silence. Right. In other words. And that's reason media we think is so important, because then you can get the word out to people, and the NCAA is just one of them. There's a conspiracy of silence between all the media channels not wanting to discuss it, because they all have sports contracts with universities that are going to be damaged by this. So if they started publicizing it, then all of a sudden they're going, okay, let's not run that particular show. That's not so good. So there's a conspiracy that's going on, but it's really a conspiracy of silence. But it's just like one of our attorneys was saying, remember Brown versus the Board of Education in Topeka, Kansas? I said, yes, of course I remember that. This ruling by the Supreme Court could be as big as Brown. In other words, all of a sudden you can't get away with, we're going to not pay the students and take all the money that they're entitled to and pocket it. And if Ankit was playing cricket over here and he got a scholarship at Duke, but then they go, well, Ankit's a fantastic player. Nike wants to offer him a deal. Ankit can't take any of the money, but you can give it to Duke. Oh, well, that's great, isn't it? That's a great deal for you. And then Ankit goes, I have no money. I'm poor. And the NCAA goes, too bad. That's the system here, and everybody's silent and complacent about it, and it's totally wrong. And I'm going, but see what it does. It serves all the people in the top 1%. So they're not going to say anything against it. But it doesn't serve all the kids that are out there that are starving to death. And they go, well, in Florida State, they actually, I don't know if you're familiar with it, Florida State University, you know what happened? Some guy felt sorry for these kids, so they gave them shoes for free. In other words, and they said, NCAA violation. What? You have tennis shoes. Yeah. Well, the guy gave it to you for free. Yeah, you can't do that. Okay, that's a violation. You're getting paid. I'm serious. This happened right here in the United States of America. And so these kids, what am I supposed to do? Go shoeless? And this is America in what, 2021? This goes on, Ankit. It was a big deal. In University of Miami, a rapper said, hey, why don't you come on my boat? We're going to have a party. NCAA said, violation to the University of Miami. We're going to, you actually let these kids go on a party boat, and you paid for their champagne. You can't do that. And this goes on all the time with the NCAA, and everybody's silent about it because the NCAA is so powerful until they reach the Supreme Court of the United States, which just happened about a month ago. It took this long, this case to get up there. And now they're saying, okay, burnt time out. And this is one problem that we even have with our legal system. I don't know if you saw this one, Mark, that just came down. Okay, there's this big thing called the George Floyd case here in the United States where the guy sat on the person's neck, right? Well, about 15 years ago, another police officer was doing the same thing. So this black lady police officer actually intervened and told the other police officer to stop it and pulled his arm away. All right? So the guy didn't get killed. All makes sense. All makes sense, right? Until this black lady police officer goes in front of the police board, and you know what they did? They fired her for interfering with another police officer and took away her pension. I'm not kidding. I'm not seeing. I'm falling on my chair. 15 years ago. Now here's what the lady did, which I think was great. The greatest thing is she stood in there for 15 years, and finally, like this month, got it reversed. So she's getting her pension back, which is worth about $800,000. Okay, but here's the problem. Here's the problem I have with this whole thing. Why did it take 18 years for the judicial system to say, look, this is wrong? This is, I mean, to me, it's, oh, by the way, in the meantime, that other police officer spent 4 months in jail for violating other people by doing the same thing. In other words, independent of her. She left and he went out and he was doing chokeholds on people anyway. In other words, he's a bad apple anyway. But in her case, here's where you got to give her a lot of credit. She hung in with the legal system for 15 years, hung in with it. Here's where I don't give credit to the legal system. You can't take 15 years to make a decision like this. We have the most expensive legal system in the world, and you can't figure this one out. Come on. Come on. What do you pay all these lawyers and judges for? To sit on their bunnies? 15 years? And this is where the legal system really needs to be slapped. On decisions like this. How many things like this are out in our legal system? I have no idea. I mean, it was the first one, one of the ones I've seen. But I can tell you, Ankit, it does exist. Who was resisting this for 15 years? Why are you denying this person's pension for 15 years? I mean, I have a real serious problem. And you know what, Mark? There's a lot of individuals that are involved in this. In other words, it's not like a system. Somebody had to make a decision. Some board had to make a decision to pull her pension. They are not being held accountable. Big problem. Then somebody else had to continue the approval of it. They're not being held accountable. Big problem. This going on for 15 years. Big problem. Finally got a judge who said, threw the whole thing out and reinstated her pension. But we have nothing in our system to go back and clean up that mess. And here's the other problem. There are things like that are going on right now in the United States. I just don't know what they are. I was thinking about creating a whole TV show on, wrongs of the legal system. In other words, people that are trapped.
Crazy laws.
What?
I said crazy laws.
Yeah, create crazy laws and crazy enforcements of laws. So in other words, in the United States, because we have 1.6 million attorneys. And, come on, having something like that going on for 15 years is ridiculous. But that's just one that we know of. How many thousands of these cases are out there? I don't know. Jeff Teichert's been doing not Jeff, but Jeff Eichen has been doing a good job getting people out of prison for they smoke marijuana and they're in prison for life. This is absolutely ridiculous. This goes on in this country, the United States of America. We're supposed to be a little bit better than this. We're horrible, and unless Shaquille comes on, they says you really knock yourself down too much. I'm going, okay, fine, but let's get real. And then on Lawyers Den the other day, somebody was commenting, well, these incidents are only one at a time. Why are we focusing on one bad police thing when there's thousands of things they do right? Okay. And they have a point there. They do 1,000 things right. But then go look at the NTSB, the National Transportation Safety Board. If a plane crashes, the NTSB is all over them. Why don't, when the plane crashed, you just go, so what? Most of the flights made it this year. We had 1 million flights that made it. Let's not even bother to investigate this one. So the real reason they're doing this is that we should have a system that is perfected. We don't want to have slop out there. And George Floyd is sloppy policeman. And then a couple of the other ones I saw, that's just slop, And the thing is, and we should have higher
in Minnesota too. That was...
Mark, we should have higher standards than that. And that's the real reason this thing is being produced, is that you've got to have higher standards. You have to be like the NTSB, higher standards. Don't say, okay, it's slop, we're going to let it go. And this thing for this lady, 15 years, now it was civil, it wasn't criminal, or anything like that. It's what they call a civil matter. It shouldn't take 15 years to solve. That should have been out within a year. Anyway, that's my thoughts for the day. My rampage, Ankit, and then I noticed we were at the hour, so we probably have to go.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Thank you. And have a good one.
Yes. Namaste. And we will see you next time on World Edition. And Steve Rao should be back next time.
Yeah.